And to do that, you gotta, I mean, that's actually my tip number 2 that I've written down,
Yeah,
is building up
perfect.
your
What is it?
catalog. Yeah, it's building up your catalog, which is number 2. Because what it comes down to is, number 1, you get better. But number 2, and this is probably the most important point that I have to share, you don't want to blow up when you have nothing to give. In other words, if I was on episode 1 back in December of 2020 and my video got 10 million views, then what? I would have no catalog. There'll be nothing else for people to watch. If I didn't have my businesses together, including all my books, my public speaking, my coaching, and all that, there'll be nowhere for them to go. They were like, oh, that's a great video. And then they move on to the next thing. Again, when my stuff went hockey stick, I had about 300 episodes. And so now people are discovering through YouTube, sharing it with them because they know they like my hot videos, as well as just a pure catalog of it. Now they have 200, back then in February, they had 299 other things to watch. And so you actually
Wow.
don't want to go from 0 to 20K the first day. You actually don't want that.
Right.
And the second, and the next part about that, which we're kind of getting at, is that your videos in the beginning aren't going to be that great. And so now when people come in, I have more of a presence. My lighting's a little bit better. I know how to organize things. My mic is stronger. I know how YouTube works. I know the vibes way more. So now when I get my next viral hit or my stuff goes like this again, then I'm ready.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bet. There's
Right,
350
right.
episodes for y'all to enjoy. Most of them are good. You know
Amazing.
what I mean?
So congratulations on your YouTube success, Damon. Not sure who the user is on LinkedIn. Sometimes LinkedIn
Thank
doesn't
you.
always show the name, so apologize for
I
that,
know
whoever
LinkedIn
that
can be
was.
funny with the streaming.
Thank you
Yeah.
for that. If you have questions, please drop them in the comment, and we will do our best to get to them for you. So that was your second tip, to just produce a lot of content, basically. And then, so do you feel like there's any similarities in that regard with like podcasting, or that's just like a totally different beast?
Absolutely. Yeah. I have a lot of mentors and friends who are
There's
podcasters,
Jamila.
including
Hey,
yourself.
Jamila.
Shout out to you.
Say again. I'm
Um,
sorry.
I said I have a lot of friends and mentors who are podcasters, including yourself.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and a lot of the folks that I've talked with who have been in the game for a long time, like they were podcasting well before the Joe Rogan era, talking like 15 years ago, back when you had to have an RSS feed and all that.
Yeah.
And they were saying the same thing that I've been sharing with y'all, where you don't want to launch a podcast with one episode.
Right. Let's see the
It's
shameless
like,
plug of
great.
this thing scrolling across the bottom of the screen there.
There you go. Talk
ParentsMakingProfits.com.
about it.
Yeah,
Talk
if you're a
about it.
parent and
I have no
entrepreneur, you
problem
like to
with
listen to.
plugs. So do that thing.
I mean, listen,
Right?
and this is Parentpreneur Foundation. If you're a parent and entrepreneur, you like to listen to podcasts, check out ParentsMakingProfits.com. It was just voted the number 10 podcast for entrepreneurship by FeedSpot. So there you go.
Ooh, those are numbers. That's hard too. That's hard. Yeah,
I don't
hard to
know
get
how
up
we
there.
did that, but we're number 10.
Well, you know what I'm saying, but you kept showing up, right?
I don't know how that happened. So
Because
somebody was saying that
y'all have had
it's
the
similar
podcast for a
before
good couple of years, so you've been doing your thing. Yeah.
So the Joe Rogan thing, they said, what about Joe Rogan?
No, I was saying it was well before the Joe Rogan era.
Yeah.
So the people that have been mentoring me have had podcasts for like 15 years.
Wow.
One of the things that they said is that you don't want to launch with one episode.
Right.
Right? I mean, you know the vibes. If you don't launch
No,
with
we
at
did. So
least
we had our
three.
trailer, and then we had 2 episodes that we launched with. So we had effectively like 3 things for people to listen to when we launched.
Minimum of 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
No, that's
makes kind of the rule.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, exactly. And so so a lot of the game that I'm sharing now, a lot of things that got me here are actually from my friends and mentors in the podcasting world. That was one of the things that I learned, but it took a little while to learn it, was that with the environment now, you can look at YouTube not as a video platform, but as a video podcast platform, because people understand podcasts now. I've been rocking with podcasts.
That's interesting. We don't publish, we don't record video. We do our podcast, and we don't publish it on YouTube. I suppose that's a missed opportunity in terms of getting views or whatever. But we're not, you know, that medium on its own would need to take off in order for us to be able to quote unquote monetize it, right? Because
Correct.
those views don't count towards the podcast download data, which is what drives sponsorship dollars over there. So it's just a totally different thing if we decided to do the video of that, which I don't honestly, because it's a lot of whole dog and pony show situation. I just don't have the time for or the inclination to do it even.
I mean,
So I
I
don't
know
know.
for some folks, just from my seat on the bus, I know some folks that only watch their podcasts. Like they don't listen to the podcast, they just watch them. And so that's kind of the paradigm shift. Again, that's why I
Yeah.
mentioned Joe Rogan. Like that's kind of the paradigm shift that happened when the Spotify Joe Rogan thing happened. You know, I'm really big into media. My background is journalism. And
Mm-hmm.
so probably like 4 or 5 years ago when the Joe Rogan deal happened and with Spotify, everything shifted. And that's why when you go on YouTube, most people that have at least a really big podcast, again, the name brands like a Joe Rogan, they got video in there. And so even if you don't do it now, eventually things come to video. The same thing
Maybe.
happened. I was just going to say the same thing happens with I used to be a writer for the Source magazine, a lot of the hip hop magazines, and the same thing's happening with music, where a lot of the like my nieces and nephews, folks that are like 30 and younger, when they want a new song, they don't even go to Spotify per se. They go to YouTube and they
I
say,
do
"Oh,
that
let me."
sometimes too. Not gonna lie.
Right? Thank you. So I mean,
Sometimes
so
I
that's
do it, but it depends
yeah,
on where I am. If I'm in my car, I'm on my phone, boom, I go to Spotify. But if
of
I'm
course,
sitting on my
of course.
laptop, sometimes it's just easier to go to YouTube if I'm in the web browser. But if I'm already on Spotify, I'll just type it in on Spotify. So really, so basically, you just got to be where people are.
That's the absolute bottom line. And really quickly, I'll give you a point where I took my first business bestseller, The Bites as Entrepreneur. It came out like 7 years ago. Again, it's included in the complete Bring Your Worth collection. And I actually did AI graphics. I learned more about AI using a thing called midjourney.ai. So started
Mhm.
working with that. And then I used that to put images to the audiobook I had for the Bites as Entrepreneur. And I shared it with my YouTube community. So now there's a book from like 7, 8 years ago that was already a bestseller. Now it's
Mhm.
gathering some dust. It's still selling, but it's not what it
Mhm.
was. I'm
Mhm.
flipping it using AI and then I'm sharing it with this new community. And that's what I'm kind of getting at, where again, back to point one, you're almost like building and reintroducing yourself again. And so there's certain products or ideas or services that you can share that I might have been rocking with that for a long time. But my YouTube community at Bring Your
Yeah.
Worth TV, they don't know what it
Okay.
is.